All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going on an archaeological detective hunt to explore the really fascinating historical origins of the concept of Allah before the advent of Islam. We're going to piece together ancient fragments of history to understand what is arguably one of the most significant religious shifts in human history. To start our investigation, we have to ask a sharp question right out of the gate. If Islam proclaims absolute monotheism, was the name Allah actually a brand new introduction? Because, if the name already existed out there in the desert, then the real historical puzzle we have to solve becomes much more nuanced. Did Islam introduce a completely new deity to the Arabian Peninsula? Or did it take an existing concept and fundamentally redefine it? Now, the linguistic root here is actually super fascinating. It reveals this shared ancient Semitic ecosystem. Allah is generally considered to be a contraction of al-ilah, which simply means the God. So originally, it wasn't a personal name at all, it was a title. And long before the 7th century, Arabic-speaking Christians and Jews were already using terms with the exact same roots, like the Syriac Allah or the Hebrew Elohim, to refer to a singular creator. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. 1. A name before Islam. 2. Nomads of the desert. 3. The merchants of Mecca. And 4. Redefining the high God. Let's start with section 1. A name before Islam. Subtitle: Epigraphy. Stones don't have theological agendas. When we look at the hard evidence, specifically epigraphy, which are these ancient inscriptions carved into stone that just record historical snapshots without any theological bias, we see how incredibly fragmented the religious landscape was. The concept of a high god definitely existed, but the specific names were highly regional. In the North Arabian regions, you see the dominant use of Allah. Over in the Nabatean regions, like around Petra, we find a much more generic use of Elah. And then way down south in Yemen, the high god was predominantly known as Rahmanan, meaning the merciful. So it absolutely wasn't a one-size-fits-all situation across the peninsula. And tracing our timeline of proof, we can find real physical receipts for this terminology. Take a look at the Zebed inscription from 512 CE. This is a trilingual text found in Syria, written out in Greek, Syriac, and Arabic. And what's wild is that it explicitly starts with the liturgical formula, in the name of God, Bisma Allah. To put that into perspective, that proves this exact phrasing was already being used by Arabs more than a century before the Quran was revealed. Moving to section 2, Nomads of the Desert. Subtitle: The Safaitic Smoking Gun. So the crucial evidence actually lies out in the harsh desert. This is where ancient nomadic tribes left us our oldest and honestly most compelling clues. Scratch right into the desert rocks roughly 2,000 years ago. These ancient voices tell us something amazing. We see phrases like, by Allah, and may Allah remember. This tells us that for the Safavidic nomads, the term Allah wasn't just some high-level abstract theology debated by wealthy elites. No, it was an intimate, everyday part of their personal religious language. Now, section 3, the merchants of Mecca. Subtitle: Institutionalizing the Divine. Let's mentally zoom out of that vast open desert and head into the structured, bustling urban center of Mecca. Because this brings us to a stark sociological contrast. We really have to compare the Safavidic law inscriptions with the later Meccan Allah concept. Is there evidence that the high god was worshipped differently by nomads in the desert versus merchants in the city? Absolutely. It's night and day. On one hand, you have the nomadic desert dwellers invoking the deity for deeply personal, individual survival, literally scratching oaths on rocks as they traveled. On the other hand, in the city of Mecca, the elite Quraysh merchants institutionalized the deity. They essentially turned Allah into a form of political branding centered entirely around the Kaaba. In fact, the Meccan Quraysh, particularly a powerful faction known as the Homs, actively branded themselves as the people of Allah. They identified Allah as the Lord of this house, meaning the Kaaba itself. By doing this, the city merchants could claim an exclusive religious elite status over all the other tribes coming in to trade. They weren't just praying to a god anymore, they were literally managing his estate. But wait, there's a catch in our archaeological hunt. To understand why these very same Meccans also worshipped a whole pantheon of idols alongside this high god, we have to talk about the academic concept of deus otiosus. Think of it as an idol god or an absentee landlord. In pre-Islamic Mecca, Allah was widely acknowledged as the supreme creator for sure, but he was believed to be way too distant, too massive, or frankly just too unconcerned with the mundane daily grind of human affairs. Because the high god was viewed as this distant, absentee landlord, the city merchants relied heavily on intermediaries. Think about it. If you needed rain, or if you needed your crops to grow, or if you just needed good health, you wouldn't bother the distant creator of the universe. Instead, the Meccans turned to much more accessible local deities. Specifically, they turned to the three goddesses known as the Daughters of Allah, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. They served as the divine middlemen for everyday survival. All right, Section 4, Redefining the High God. Subtitle, Divorcing Allah from the Pantheon. Let's synthesize these two worlds to understand the true nature of the Islamic revolution. How did Allah change from an absentee landlord into the absolute singular focus of a massive new religion? Well, beyond just theology, there was immense political pressure at play. If you look at the map of late antiquity, the Arabian Peninsula was getting squeezed. To the north, you had the massive Byzantine Empire, fully united under one Christian state god. To the east, the powerful Sassanid Empire, united under one Zoroastrian state god. Many historians argue that for the fragmented Arab tribes to actually compete on the world stage, unifying under one exclusive massive god wasn't merely a religious awakening, it was a strict geopolitical necessity. And look at how beautifully the linguistics mirror this unification. Remember our earlier evidence about the regional gods? The north had Allah, and the south had Rahmanan. The Quran brilliantly synthesizes these two regional powerhouses by frequently using the title Ar-Rahman, the Merciful. It effectively and seamlessly merges the northern Allah and the southern Rahmanan into a single, undeniable deity for the entire Arabian Peninsula. It's a really incredible linguistic bridge. So the big takeaway from our detective work today is this. Islam didn't move the Arabs from no God to a brand new one. Instead, it executed a radical redefinition. First, it reclaimed a shared title that was already known to everyone, from the desert nomads to the city elites. Second, it removed the intermediaries entirely, boldly declaring that the creator is directly accessible, no more absentee landlord. And third, it established absolute exclusivity, permanently divorcing Allah from the pagan pantheon. Which leaves us with a fascinating anomaly to ponder. We know the Meccans relied on those intermediaries we talked about, but if Allah was always the supreme high god, why did he supposedly have daughters? Were these three goddesses representing a genuine, heartfelt belief in a divine family tree? Or was the concept of the Daughters of Allah just a clever political metaphor used by the tribes, which later texts then completely flipped to discredit them? That is a historical mystery we will have to uncover next time.